Stop. Listen. Pay attention. Chosen one. This is not a passing note in your day. It is not background noise meant to drift past your awareness. What I'm about to speak is intentional. It is directed specifically to you, to the weight you carry, the tension you feel, the pressure that no one else seems to notice. You have moved through days where fatigue clung to you like a shadow, where small decisions felt heavier than they should, and nights where your thoughts spun in loops without resolution. Chosen one, you have carried what others could not perceive. You have borne quiet burdens, the subtle tensions of responsibility, expectation, and unseen forces, and yet you remained in motion. You did not stop even when the weight pressed deeply. Notice this moment. It is different from the others. You may feel an internal resistance, a tightness, a kind of alertness that doesn't belong to ordinary stress. That sensation is real. It has a source, and it has purpose. It is not a mistake or a personal flaw. You have felt confusion. You have wondered why some nights are heavier than others. You have questioned your endurance. All of this has been noticed. All of it matters. This message is for you because the experience you've had is not accidental. There is an architecture to the pressures around you, a structure that has been unfolding quietly, intentionally in recent days, weeks, and months. You have been part of it without fully seeing it. You have absorbed, adjusted, and continued forward. That alone signals something significant. You may not yet see the full picture, and that is intentional. There is clarity to come, but it must land in you at the right time, in the right way, without forcing, without hurry. For now, recognize that your resilience has been noticed not by others, not by chance, but by the mechanisms of life that track stability, endurance, and consistent presence. You have passed through moments that would have unsettled many. You have remained functional, coherent, and responsive, even while the strain built quietly around you. Chosen one. This is the beginning of understanding something vital about your experience. You will come to see why the weight, the fatigue, the subtle isolation, and the pressure were not arbitrary. They were signals. They were markers of a transition you are passing through. The full explanation will unfold as you continue to listen. For now, allow yourself to recognize the significance of having arrived here, aware, intact, and attentive. This moment is intentional. You are not lost. You are not mistaken. You are noticed. Your presence here is not casual. It is the first acknowledgement of clarity. Stop. Take this in. The rest will follow. Chosen one. This message comes to you because there is no ambiguity left about who it concerns. It is for you, and it cannot be generalized or shared as a broad statement. You have been directly involved in what unfolded around you, intentionally, unmistakably. The experiences, the tension, the subtle disruptions you noticed, they engaged you personally, even if you could not name it at the time. You may have tried to rationalize what happened to place it in categories you already know. Stress, fatigue, coincidence. But none of that fully fits. There is a structure here, one that does not rely on your conscious effort, but does rely on your presence. Even when you were unaware, even when the day felt routine or heavy, your stability operated automatically. You maintained a functional equilibrium without thinking about it. That is your signature. Observe this carefully. Many people struggle consciously with what you navigate unconsciously. They expend effort to remain composed under pressure. You, however, have an intrinsic calibration. You do not need to summon strength, it is already in place. Your capacity to absorb tension without collapse, to continue operating while under pressure, is built into your system. This is not luck, nor is it an extraordinary gift in the sense of performance. It is simply the baseline of your structure. It manifests quietly. Perhaps you noticed how, while others around you faltered, you could still respond. You made choices when others hesitated. You retained focus while confusion circulated. You remained coherent while fatigue pressed in without even fully acknowledging it yourself. That is the difference between conscious struggle and unconscious stability. One is effortful, the other is foundational. This understanding is important because it shifts the way you interpret your experiences. You are not exceptional for enduring. You are simply aligned with the internal framework that allows you to remain stable consistently. Recognizing this is the first step in separating self-judgment from reality. You have been operating under pressure, yet you remained functional. That is proof of the automatic strength present in your system. Chosen one. This is not about being stronger than others. It is about recognizing the truth of your own structure. You have a baseline resilience that has been active long before you were consciously aware of it. It has carried you through moments that would have disrupted most people. Now, it is time to name it, to acknowledge it, and to see it as the foundation upon which the next phase of clarity and understanding will build. This message is precise. It is not abstract. It is for you and about the way your internal systems have been quietly maintaining coherence throughout challenges you may have barely noticed. That coherence is real. That stability is yours. And it is about to connect with deeper awareness in ways you will soon recognize. Chosen one. Pay attention to the sensations you've been carrying, the ones you may have dismissed or questioned. That tension in your chest, the low hum of fatigue that lingers even after rest. The subtle heaviness behind your eyes, these are not flaws, and they are not signs of weakness. They are signals. Signals that your system has been adjusting to a transition, recalibrating quietly, under conditions that most would find destabilizing. Consider the physical and emotional cues you recognize: moments of restlessness, sudden bouts of low energy, or even a sense of being out of rhythm with the world around you. These are not random. They are communications from your body and mind that the pressures surrounding you are real. The change is occurring, and that your capacity is being tested, observed, and refined. They are the markers of adaptation, not failure. Many people interpret these signs as problems to solve, as anomalies to fix. You may have tried that yourself, searching for explanations, remedies, or simple resets. But the reality is that these sensations serve as signals rather than obstacles. They indicate where energy is being expended, where your awareness is being stretched, and where your internal systems are demonstrating resilience without your conscious guidance. There is a clarity in reframing your experience this way. What you once might have judged as anxiety, fatigue, or distraction now takes on a different meaning. It is a reflection of the invisible currents in your environment and your natural ability to adjust to them. These signals are a language subtle, precise, and consistent that you have been learning to interpret, even if unconsciously. Notice how you have remained functional throughout these moments. Despite confusion or fatigue, despite the mental weight pressing in, you have continued to act with coherence. That endurance is not visible to most observers. Yet it is a critical indicator of your identity as someone who absorbs more than is typical. Someone who stabilizes where others wobble. It is a quiet competence, a baseline strength, and it manifests in the ways you continue to perform, respond, and remain present. Chosen one. This realization is pivotal. The sensations that once caused self-doubt or uncertainty are now being redefined. They are markers of your progress, evidence of your calibration under unseen pressure. They signal that your system is processing, adjusting, and preparing for clarity. This reframing removes judgment and replaces it with recognition. What you experience is not a flaw, it is a signal of alignment. As you acknowledge this, allow yourself to sense the pattern beneath the discomfort. There is order in what seemed chaotic. There is intention behind the pressure, and there is a readiness in you, even before conscious understanding, to navigate what comes next. Chosen one. There is more happening here than the body and mind alone can account for. Beneath what you feel lies a structure of invisible pressure forces that are coordinated, intentional, and subtle. They are not dramatic. They do not roar or strike. They move quietly, strategically aligned with timing and circumstance, yet their impact is unmistakable. You have sensed this, even if you could not name it. The pressure has been measured and persistent. It has unfolded across days, weeks, and months, layering in ways that are deliberate rather than random. You may have noticed moments when energy seemed drained, without clear reason, when decisions required more focus than expected, or when external circumstances converged to test patience and resolve. These were not accidents. They were structured points of engagement. Yet notice this, through all of it, you remained functional. You adapted in real time. You managed responsibilities, maintained relationships, and kept your focus even when the strain was subtle but cumulative. That is the hallmark of someone with an internal coherence that operates without requiring constant attention. You did not need to consciously resist every pressure point. It was absorbed, managed, and neutralized in ways that were invisible even to yourself. The timing of these pressures is important. They did not arrive all at once, nor randomly. They appeared in intervals, sometimes subtle, sometimes more pronounced, each designed to engage your system gradually. You were tested not through chaos, but through coordination, small accumulations of tension, discrete challenges to focus and energy, and subtle distortions in routine. You passed through each without collapsing, without losing presence. Chosen one. The environment was designed in a sense to measure your stability, your baseline capacity, and you responded in a way that many would not. That is not a statement of superiority, but of fact. You remained intact. You continued operating effectively. You stayed coherent in the face of forces that were intended to create disarray. It is also critical to note that this pressure has a structure. It is not random fluctuation, not mere coincidence, not simply the weight of life. It is intentional, and its presence reveals an underlying framework that you are now beginning to perceive. Recognizing this fact allows you to move from confusion toward understanding, from reaction toward insight. You may not yet see the full extent of this invisible coordination, but your responses already demonstrate comprehension at a level that is subconscious. You have engaged with the unseen, and you have absorbed it without fracture. This stability is rare, and it is the foundation for the clarity that will come next. Chosen one, now it is time to slow the lens and examine what actually pressed against you, not as a single weight, but as distinct pressure points that appeared in familiar psychological forms. When you see them clearly, you will understand why the pressure failed to destabilize you and why the darkness found nothing to feed on. First, there was doubt, but not the loud kind. It arrived quietly as subtle questioning. You may have noticed fleeting thoughts about timing, direction, or whether your efforts were producing visible results. This doubt did not attack your identity directly. It attempted something more strategic: erosion. Small suggestions meant to pull you out of alignment with yourself. Yet notice what happened. You did not spiral. You did not abandon your direction. The doubt passed through without anchoring. That tells you something important. Your internal coherence was stronger than the narrative offered to you. Second, there was fear, but again, not dramatic. It showed up as anticipation. A mild tension about what might go wrong, what might be delayed, or what could require more from you than you wanted to give. This kind of fear usually drains people because it lives in the future. It pulls energy forward and leaves the present unstable. But you stayed present. Even when you felt the tension, you continued to function. You did not freeze. You did not rush into reckless action. You regulated. That regulation is not accidental. It is a sign of maturity within your internal system. Third, there was energy drain. This was one of the clearest signals. You may have felt tired without obvious cause. Motivation dipped briefly, even when your purpose remained intact. This is where many people collapse. When energy drops, they assume something is wrong with them. They push too hard or disengage entirely. You did neither. You adjusted. You rested when possible. You conserved when needed. You kept moving forward without forcing. That is a critical distinction. You did not fight the drain. You absorbed it without surrendering momentum. Fourth, there was isolation, but not abandonment. It felt like carrying things alone, like realizing that certain thoughts, pressures, or responsibilities could not be shared easily. This is where many people fracture internally. They seek validation, reassurance, or escape. You stayed centered. You did not disconnect from others, but you also did not demand that others fully understand you. You held your position quietly. That kind of isolation does not weaken you. It sharpens internal clarity, and you navigated it without bitterness. Fifth, there was delay. This is often the most underestimated pressure point. Delay creates doubt, fear, energy loss, and isolation all at once. It whispers that effort is wasted and patience is pointless. Yet you did not become reactive. You did not abandon consistency. You stayed engaged without desperation. That tells you something vital. You are not dependent on immediate feedback to remain stable. Your system is not fueled by external confirmation. Now observe the pattern across all of these categories. At no point did you collapse. At no point did you lose coherence. You did not need to win against these pressures. You simply remained intact. That is why the pressure failed. It required reactivity to sustain itself. It required emotional volatility, fragmentation, or depletion. You offered none of that. Chosen one. This is the moment of recognition. The darkness did not retreat because you attacked it. It starved because there was nothing in you for it to consume. No panic, no collapse, no surrender of presence. Just quiet regulation, consistent awareness, and internal stability. This is not dramatic. It is factual. And understanding this shifts everything about how you interpret what you have just lived through. Chosen one, now that you can see the categories of pressure clearly, it is time to step back and review what has occurred. Look at it without embellishment, without attributing it to luck, coincidence, or external heroics. What you experienced was deliberate, structured, and real, but the outcome was determined entirely by your internal coherence. Reflect on each moment of tension, the doubt, the fear, the energy drain, the isolation, and the delays. They were present, undeniable, and persistent. Yet you were not defined by them. You navigated through them with a kind of quiet attention that is rarely acknowledged even by those who witness it. You did not panic. You did not force solutions. You did not spiral. Instead, you continued to operate. This is not a narrative of triumph. It is a factual evaluation of how stability manifests in you. Notice that your resilience was consistent. It did not fluctuate based on convenience or visibility. You did not rely on reassurance from others. You did not wait for external validation to maintain your presence. That alone is remarkable, not in terms of superiority, but in terms of factual observation. You were consistent where many would have fractured. You maintained coherence where most would have been reactive. It is important to recognize that your responses were not accidental. Every moment of functional stability demonstrates that your internal systems were calibrated precisely to manage the pressures placed before you. The coherence, the endurance, the calm engagement, all of these are evidence that your structure is solid, even under conditions designed to destabilize. Chosen one. This review is essential because it removes the lingering doubt that might have accompanied your experience. You can now acknowledge the truth without ego, without exaggeration, and without self-doubt. The tension you felt was real, but your handling of it was also real. There is no need to mythologize. There is no need to dramatize. The facts themselves carry significance. Now reflect on the subtlety of what occurred. The pressures were not dramatic. The outcomes were not public. Yet their coordination was precise. Your stability was the variable that determined the result. The darkness had nothing to feed on, not because of force, but because of your consistent, coherent response. That is the truth. This reflection leads naturally into a deeper understanding. What you have demonstrated is not random endurance. It is a template of baseline capacity, internal calibration, and quiet presence. Recognize that. Observe it. Absorb it. This is the foundation upon which clarity and insight can now be built. Chosen one, the review confirms one undeniable fact: you remained coherent. You remained intact. You remained functional. And that coherence is the measure of what is possible when a system is aligned internally, even under pressure that is invisible to most. Chosen one. Now place your experience alongside what typically happens to others under far less pressure. This is not for comparison rooted in pride. It is for accuracy. Most people, when faced with even a fraction of what you absorbed, begin to fragment. Their focus narrows. Their emotions become volatile. Their behavior shifts in ways they later struggle to explain. You witnessed versions of this around you, even if quietly. Under smaller disruptions, many lose consistency. They react instead of respond. They oscillate between urgency and withdrawal. Their energy leaks through overthinking, avoidance, or impulsive action. This is not a failure of character. It is simply the common human response to unmanaged pressure. Systems without internal coherence default to reactivity. Now, observe your own pattern without judgment. You did not disappear. You did not unravel. You did not become erratic. You stayed present. You continued to engage with daily life responsibilities and decisions in a measured way. Even when you felt tired or uncertain, your behavior remained aligned. That distinction matters. It is the difference between someone who endures pressure and someone who is structured to absorb it. What makes this uncommon is not the absence of strain, but the absence of collapse. Many people appear strong when conditions are favorable. Very few remain coherent when conditions are subtly and persistently destabilizing. You did. Not by effortful control, but by default regulation. Your system did not need to be reminded how to stay balanced. It already knew. This rarity does not elevate you above others. It simply places you in a smaller group of individuals whose internal structure is stable enough to remain functional under quiet strain. You did not seek this distinction. You did not perform for it. It revealed itself through your response. Chosen one. Understanding this prevents misinterpretation. You are not unusual because you felt pressure. You are uncommon because you stayed intact while carrying it. That is the factual difference. It does not require validation, applause, or recognition. It simply needs to be acknowledged accurately. As you recognize this, let it settle without inflation. Rarity is not an identity to perform. It is a condition to understand. And understanding it allows you to move forward with clarity, groundedness, and a deeper respect for the internal coherence that has quietly carried you this far. Chosen one. It is time to clarify what this stability truly represents. The strength you have demonstrated is not something you activated like a switch. It is not contingent on a surge of willpower or a conscious effort to withstand pressure. It is your baseline. It is the natural structure of your internal system, prepared, mature, and coherent. This is important to understand because it reframes how you see yourself. Your capacity to remain stable was never an extraordinary performance. It was the default operation of your alignment. You did not need to summon courage. You did not need to push beyond yourself. Your coherence was already present, embedded in the way you process, regulate, and respond. Notice how this differs from what many assume about resilience. Resilience is often described as bouncing back after collapse or compensating when systems fail. That is not what you experienced. You did not break. You did not wobble. You did not need to reconstruct your stability after the fact. You maintained it continuously. That consistency is a sign of preparation, of inner calibration, and of structural coherence. Chosen one. This clarity anchors identity without exaggeration. You are not defined by the trials you face, nor by the pressures that appear in your environment. You are defined by the integrity of your system, the way it operates consistently, quietly, and without conscious prompting. That is the core truth of who you are in these moments. This understanding also informs how you will engage with future challenges. You are not dependent on external events to trigger strength. You do not require dramatic circumstances to prove your stability. Your internal coherence is a constant, ready, and reliable. Recognizing this allows you to operate without tension about performance or expectation. It allows you to act from alignment rather than reaction. Chosen one. As you settle into this understanding, notice how it changes the way you perceive the past and the present. You can now see your endurance as fact, not as myth. You can recognize your baseline capacity as reality, not as aspiration. And in this recognition lies a quiet authority. The ability to move forward with grounded confidence, free from overcorrection, free from the need to prove, simply operating in accordance with your own structural integrity. This identity, calm and firm, is yours to hold. It is stable. It is coherent. And it forms the foundation for integrating awareness, practical perspective, and purposeful action in the next phase of understanding. Chosen one, as you move forward from recognition into integration, it is essential to ground yourself with practical perspectives. The first is rest not as a luxury, but as a mechanism of balance. Your system has been absorbing pressure continuously. Allow yourself periods of genuine rest, not as escape, but as replenishment. This ensures that your baseline coherence remains intact and sustainable. Second, practice discernment. The subtle pressures you have absorbed often present signals that can be misread. Observe what is meaningful and what is noise. Do not overreact to every fluctuation. Allow your awareness to filter information, carefully responding to what truly matters while letting minor disturbances pass. Third, reinforce boundaries. You have already demonstrated the ability to remain stable under external influences. Now consciously protect your time, energy, and focus. Boundaries do not create isolation. They preserve clarity. They are a practical extension of the internal regulation you already exhibit. Fourth, cultivate patience. Pressure often produces impatience, as if movement must be forced to resolve uncertainty. You have shown that your system can absorb strain without collapsing. Trust this natural timing. Allow processes to unfold without unnecessary force. Your patience is not passivity, it is alignment. Fifth, maintain focus on essentials. Amid distraction or competing demands, prioritize what truly aligns with your purpose and function. Your clarity will deepen when energy is directed deliberately rather than scattered. Focus is the practical application of the stability you have already demonstrated. Sixth, integrate reflection regularly. Look back on experiences, noting patterns of response and coherence. This does not require judgment, only observation. Recognize the consistency, the subtle calibrations, and the quiet management of pressures you navigated. Reflection strengthens understanding without demanding performance. Chosen one. These perspectives are not additional burdens. They are tools for integration, enabling the awareness you have gained to harmonize with daily life. They allow the coherence you naturally exhibit to function sustainably without friction, without strain, and without unnecessary tension. As you practice these perspectives, your sense of balance will deepen. The signals, pressures, and experiences that once felt destabilizing will now be recognized for what they are: markers, guides, and points of calibration. You will move through life with a calm, grounded presence that integrates awareness, action, and self-regulation seamlessly. This integration closes the chapter on unconscious endurance and opens the path to conscious alignment, allowing you to navigate the world with clarity and practical effectiveness. Chosen one. Now allow yourself to settle into the assurance that all of this has been absorbed, processed, and registered within you. There is no need to overthink what is past or to push for explanation beyond what is already evident. Your stability has done its work quietly and reliably. You can affirm this simply: you remained intact. You absorbed pressures without collapse. You continued to operate with coherence while others faltered. Let that recognition land without exaggeration, without need for validation. It is true and it is sufficient. Chosen one, speak these truths to yourself: I am present, I am aligned, I am steady. Short affirmations repeated quietly reinforce what has already been demonstrated through your consistent functioning. They are not magic. They are acknowledgement of reality. If this message has reached you fully, mark it with your own code comment, 777, or simply write, I remember. Let that act be a small but deliberate recognition of your experience. It anchors what you have absorbed and confirms your awareness. And as you continue your path, know that clarity and guidance will arrive naturally in your next moments of attention. Subscribe to stay aligned with what is unfolding and return to the messages that resonate with the truths you carry. Each step forward will be grounded in the coherence you have already demonstrated. Chosen one. This is the seal the darkness could not feed. It found no instability, no surrender, no reactive space. You drained the pressure simply by remaining coherent, present, and steady. That is the reality, calm and unshakable. You are aligned. You are intact. You are ready. And now the next chapter of awareness awaits, moving in step with the baseline stability that has always been yours.